Local brewery owners preparing for tariff impacts say that they will likely have to raise prices.
This comes after the Trump administration has promised a new 25% charge on all steel and aluminum imports. Let's bring back our chief business correspondent, Taylor Young, in studio with us. And Taylor, brewery owners tell you that they're just bracing for impact here.
Yeah, they're watching any and all updates on tariffs very, very closely. And I think the misconception here is that when you imagine your favorite brewery, you might think this really can't get any more local. They are commonly owned by people in your community. The beer is made right in house with materials grown in North Carolina. But the reality is beer is made in steel and sold in aluminum, a lot of which is not from the United States. Now, sales data from the beginning of the year show that beer in aluminum cans accounted for about 75% of craft brewers' packaged volume revenue. And according to the Brewers Association, the majority of these cans are coming in from Canada. Now, yesterday, I caught up with the owner of Town Brewing in Charlotte. He says unlike larger breweries or even major beverage companies, they don't have the option to switch up their production and start packaging their beer in plastic or glass. Since breweries operate on tight margins, he says these extra costs will likely have to be passed down to customers.
To pay our employees, keep our doors open, and keep where we're at to keep going forward as a business, we have to keep that operational margin. So unfortunately, some of those prices are going to have to be reflected in our end costs. I think we'll absorb as much as we can. What we don't want to see is a price increase that also reduces our volume and velocity of sales, because that's going to have an economic impact on us and the consumer as well.
And this is not just impacting this specific brewery. I mean, this is breweries across the country and all over Charlotte. But I will say that Town Brewing does have experience dealing with tariffs. So they built their brewery in Charlotte back in 2018. This was when the last round of tariffs under the Trump administration came through for aluminum and steel. So they had their equipment coming in from overseas, potentially about to get hit with another 25% tariff. Luckily, all of their equipment came in just weeks before that happened. But this is just kind of to show how quickly these tariffs can really impact these small businesses, especially when we're talking about building breweries or even brewing beer.
Yeah.
And the tariffs don't just stop at the steel and the aluminum,
They
right? How else does it affect them?
Yeah, and grain is, of course, the number one ingredient in beer other than water. And, you know, while grain is grown in the United States, a lot of it does also come from Canada. This is also a very difficult crop to grow. And even for those breweries that source 95% of their grain in the state of North Carolina, there is a major concern right now that a lot of other companies will also start looking at, you know, these farms in North Carolina or across our region. It's just kind of a simple economics here. If you have a massive spike in demand from that local crop, those prices are going to increase. So this is hitting breweries, the grain, the steel, the aluminum, how it's made, what it's sold in, and what it's made with.
Yeah, kind of an assault on all fronts here.
Yeah.
So how are they preparing for this?
Yeah, I mean, there's really only so much that they can do right now. We know just from our coverage, other industries that are being impacted by tariffs, they're kind of stocking up on all the materials that might be impacted. But for local small breweries, they don't really have the option in many cases to kind of stock up on all of these cans because they're dealing with a small space, right? So there's been thoughts on, do we rent space to put our extra materials in? But that's extra cost there. That could maybe just, you know, you're paying 25% in tariffs or a fee to store your goods. What's kind of the difference there? So there's a lot of talks that potentially a bunch of breweries banding together to kind of buy in bulk. But yeah, this is something that they're kind of dealing with day by day, kind of just waiting to see what happens. But I think the bottom line here is that they do anticipate being impacted, and that is going to be trickled down, unfortunately, to customers.